It's been 12 years, okay? More than 12 years since Satoshi Nakamoto created Bitcoin. And they haven't been able to stop it. They have tried. They have tried a lot. I wrote a long essay for Quillette on this. Like, why haven't governments been able to stop Bitcoin? And my thesis is essentially that there's been like this mix of different kind of technical, social, and economic and political incentives and disincentives that make it very difficult. And I think to me, the best way to think about it is that Bitcoin's like a Trojan horse. So just to actually tell that story just a little bit, because I think it's important to understand the classical mythology tale. I find this very interesting.
Of the actual
Trojan horse, yeah, which was told in the Aeneid, actually, by Virgil, right? And the idea was the Greeks had been like trying to take the city of Troy for like a decade at these like impregnable walls, and they couldn't do it. And Ulysses and the rest of the Greek army were like, we don't know what to do. So Minerva, the god of strategy and war, kind of like they get this idea from her, I guess, to actually try to use subterfuge and trickery to take over the city. So the idea is and this was sort of hatched by Ulysses, right, to put this horse together that would kind of be like a gift. So the idea was the Greeks just like pretended to leave, right? They deserted. They left behind one soldier and this horse. And the Trojans looked at it and they were like, what is going on here? And they brought in the soldier, and the soldier's like, look, they left. They're so sorry for all of the desecration and blood spill. This is their gift to you. It's, honoring Minerva. It's like this, trophy for you guys. Yeah. And there were actually people inside Troy, Cassandra, a prophet, as well as Laocoon, who was like a priest, who said, no, this is obviously a trick. This is obviously a trick. But they were like dispatched and ignored because the horse was like, it was just like so badass. So the Trojans were like, bringing it in the city. So they brought it in themselves. No blood spilled at all, right? In the middle of the night, of course, what you realize is the horse was packed with Greek soldiers, and they come out and they let the army in, which was like hiding behind an island. So this idea that like something could be so attractive that you really can't say no, even if you know what's inside of it, is at play in Bitcoin. So like in Bitcoin has this number go up technology, right? It is what we call it in sort of shorthand, NGU, right? But what people don't realize is that NGU is like the Trojan horse. Inside the Trojan horse is FGU, freedom go up technology. So dictators and rogue regimes and corporations are going to buy, mine, tax, accumulate this thing because it's the best performing financial asset in the world. What they don't realize, or they're going to have to ignore, is that they're also aiding and abetting this freedom technology, which allows individuals to be sovereign and eventually erodes their power. There's no question that rogue regimes and bad actors have already used and will continue to use Bitcoin. The thing is, when you think about a North Korea or a Venezuela, and that government instructs some of its bureaucrats and cronies and officials to start stealing Bitcoin or accumulating it or whatever, for short-term gain, to get around sanctions and use it to buy dollars or something like that, right? Which they can't get normally. Well, guess what? All those people who the regime has instructed to like figure this thing out and use it, they're all going to realize, oh my God, this is money the government doesn't control. And it's going to spread like a virus, okay? So this is like the idea of the Trojan horse allegory, why I think it's so important and powerful with Bitcoin. All the people talking about Bitcoin today on TV, they don't care about freedom or privacy. They just care about number go up. But what they don't realize is what's concealed within. And that's very, very powerful to me.
So the people talking about Bitcoin on TV are maybe investor types.
Professional investors, corporations, and soon governments. I mean, you just had today, this morning on CNBC, the leader of the Republican leader of the House of Representatives, a congressman, saying like we need to be pro-Bitcoin as a country. And the other day, Peter Thiel had a very interesting comment where he was basically like, let's not fall behind China in this race. So you have influential people in our government, like sort of posturing for this like, Bitcoin race that's going to happen in the next 10 years. You're going to see this. Countries are going to compete to stack Bitcoin. Absolutely.
So you believe the thing that's shiny and sexy, like the Trojan horse, is the number go up.
It's too hard to ignore.
And to define that a little further, meaning is, it does seem like the more people get excited and start using Bitcoin, the more its value grows. So it's just a good
feedback loop.
Yeah, it's a feedback loop. And then the reason you're excited about it, especially, is the FG.
Freedom go up.
Freedom go up, which is it ultimately gives power to the individuals to decentralize.
Yeah, I mean, like system. When Tesla stacks Bitcoin, they're just doing that out of self-interest. They think it's going to be a good inflation hedge. Fine. But what they maybe don't care about, don't realize, or they don't need to care. I mean, Bitcoin's power is it like co-opts people into promoting a freedom tool, even if they don't care about, or even if they hate freedom. It doesn't matter. So when Tesla stacks Bitcoin and the price goes up and more interest goes up and more people around the world are like, wow, Bitcoin, then more people get involved. Again, more adoption, more price, more developers, better user interface, more privacy tools, more mining, more network security. It's just this like positive feedback loop that continues to grow, and it will grow intensely in the next decade as we go through the adoption cycle. And the reason why I'm so excited about this is the human rights world. Again, to get back to our previous conversation, it is very hard to find people who have the empathy or the altruism to actually make a difference abroad in places like China or Saudi Arabia or North Korea. People are very quick to they'll just quickly toss off the pretty words that they care about human rights as soon as profits come into play. So there's no alignment of incentives, right? The reason why Bitcoin is so powerful is that it aligns the incentives. All of a sudden, they can be as greedy as they want. They are being forced to promote a freedom tool. This I've never seen before, and it gives me a lot of like excitement. It's very refreshing because we've been laboring in the human rights space. You have to like raise money, and it's all like nonprofit work, and you're like begging for people to make a difference for you. Here you have this like incredible asset, which people will accumulate out of self-preservation, self-interest, and greed, and yet it will strengthen the power of the individual. That is what we need to fight Big Brother. That's what we need to fight. Like what I'm scared is happening in China, like this growing authoritarian state, which is powered by big data analysis. This is our way to fight back. And it runs on this like really interesting engine, again, that like takes advantage of our base nature as humans. Mm-hmm. And I know that it sounds terrible for me to say this, but I mean, ultimately we are self-interested, and it is hard to get people to care about others living 1,000 miles away. We are kind of localized in our empathy. Speaking as someone who works to help people who live in like 100 different countries, it's very difficult to get Americans to care about what's happening in Belarus or in Kashmir. It just is. But guess what? They're going to definitely care about Bitcoin because they want to see their net worth go up. They want to do better for their family, et cetera. They're going to get into this thing, and it's really going to like make that powerful tool for everyone else who's using it. So this interplay dynamic is fascinating to me.
Yeah, I have to. So I'm somebody who doesn't like the corrupting effects of greed, mm-hmm. but it is also human nature.
Yeah, I don't like it either. But we have to be realists here.
You have to acknowledge it and then maybe use it for your advantage.
And it's not just Bitcoin itself. Like exchanges today are adopting something called Lightning Network, mm-hmm. which is a way to scale Bitcoin on a second layer. Much like we had gold bars, which we scaled with paper money, and then we had Visa credit cards, which were a way of scaling the paper notes. Bitcoin scales through Lightning Network. It's a private, instant, globally final settlement network. It's something you all should check out. It's very, very interesting. The exchanges aren't adopting Lightning for its privacy benefits. Like Lightning operates off the chain, meaning surveillance companies can't do chain analysis on Lightning because it's on an onion routed second layer, that works kind of like the Tor project. The exchanges don't care about privacy. They're doing it because it reduces fees. Lightning is cheaper and faster. So again, we have this really interesting alignment of incentives where like the freedom tech is being promoted by people who it doesn't matter what their incentives are. I could care less if they were altruistic or not. And I think this is, and you're going to maybe see this even in the future. There's more things coming in Bitcoin down the pike. Lightning was enabled by an upgrade called SegWit, right, which took place a few years ago, which was the culmination of the block size conflict. Mm-hmm. There's another thing coming up called cross-input signature aggregation, which may, if it takes effect in the next few years, it may compel exchanges to collaboratively spend all their Bitcoin together in a way that really protects our privacy and fights surveillance. But they're not going to do it for moral reasons. They're going to do it because it's going to save them money and improve their bottom line.
Can you speak to that kind of collaborative so that you can have multiple parties in a single transaction kind of thing?
Yeah, like you can do that today. Absolutely. It's called a coin join, for example. But right now it's more expensive to coin join in Bitcoin. You have to pay a premium for your privacy. This would flip that on its head and would basically say, if you have one transaction, hey, pile them all in, have as many parties as you want. The more parties you get in, the cheaper it's going to be per party. Okay. And that's not possible in Bitcoin today, but it might be in the future. But again, the beauty in Bitcoin are these these ways that it just aligns human incentives and it aligns our like most base desires and needs and realities with like freedom and privacy. And